Hi there and welcome to this video on AudioWarp quantizing. Even the best players struggle with timing, so in this video I want to go through some basics with quantizing audio. Hopefully you can get your tracks sounding tighter. To start with, I'll use a slow and open track, so any timing issues should really stand out. Let's have a listen and see if we can spot any. The last note is obviously out of time. Sometimes it can be hard to hear all the issues. Let's click on the timeline and drag down for a closer look. You can also use the plus and minus buttons in the bottom right hand corner or G and H on your keyboard. Now we've zoomed in, we can see that the very first note is ahead of the bar. We can click on the track and see where the waveform is actually peaking there. Now I've recorded to click, so I'm going to go down and turn the click on in my transport window. You can also use the C button on your keypad. Let's have a closer look and listen using the click. You can see those waveforms are getting further and further ahead of the beat. It makes it a whole lot easier to spot these timing issues when we've got the click track on and we've got the visual representation on the screen in front of us. Another way of quickly seeing where your timing issues are is to get the locator, first put it on the bar, and then move it to see where all the parts are fitting. Now I can see that my drums are slightly ahead, the bass is slightly behind, and the piano is sitting right on the start of the bar. I'm going to use the brand new time and pitch stretching algorithm in Cubase Pro 8.5, which remarkably is even better than the one that they used in previous versions. Let's open up the quantize panel. And the first thing you'll notice is that it's exactly the same as MIDI quantizing. So if you've used MIDI quantizing, you're not going to have many issues with audio. The first step though is to figure out what quantize setting to apply to the track. Let's start by having a look at the timeline above the track. We'll start with the bars and the beats, and then go down and see if your playing matches up to those beats. In this case, it seems to fit on every beat of the bar, so I'm going to use 1/4. I'm going to turn on AudioWarp and press quantize. Let's have a listen to see if it works. So it works in that part, but you need to consider that there's a whole track. In this track, the drummer's playing ghost notes on the snare, so the setting doesn't quite work, as you can hear there. The bass player is also playing eighth notes, so we need to rethink our quantizing setting, which is fine because we can use Ctrl-Z or the little arrows in the bottom left-hand corner of the quantize window. Let's try going with 1/8, which is quantizing everything to quavers or 8 subdivisions. So all of our notes will now fit in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's already tightened up that note, so it's starting to work. But once again, we've got the whole track to consider. So let's have a closer look and a listen and see if it works. The track is sounding so much better, and as we look at it, we can see that the playing is now more aligned to the bars and the beats, and it gives us a tighter performance. You could go to a higher setting and play the whole track through just to see how it feels, so let's try 1/16 and hear how it sounds with the higher setting. Straight away, we've lost that much tighter feeling that we managed to achieve with 1/8. So let's go back. Yeah, that's the right setting. It feels comfortable even listening to it. Let's quickly go through and make sure visually everything's aligned and check our last note. Let's look at another quantizing approach. To do that, I'm going to go to Edit and my History panel and reset the track to before I applied the quantize setting. Let's have another quick listen. So we're back to the sloppy playing. But what if we don't want to have it perfectly tightened up on every beat and every bar? There's an IQ button in the quantize panel, and we can increase and decrease the percentage here, and that will apply a looser feel over all of the tracks in Cubase Pro 8.5. Now if we look at the track, we can see that the playing's just ahead of the bar. But if we weren't looking at that, we may not necessarily be able to hear it, and it may help create more of a feel or a vibe in the music. Quite often a drummer will drive their hi-hats and leave the snare till the last possible moment, and a bass player might be sitting back to give us a relaxed attitude so they're behind the beat. or pushing ahead of it to drive the track along. Another method for keeping groove in your track is to use the non-quantize setting. So that red area that we're increasing and decreasing is the area that Cubase will leave alone. So it won't quantize within that area, but anything outside of it, it'll draw back into that red area. We've looked at a couple of techniques which cover everyone from, say, the weekend warrior who pulls that guitar out once a week and maybe needs a bit more tightening up, through to, say, a session musician who just needs that groove just tightened up a little bit more. Let's take a look at one other quick quantizing technique. You might find yourself in the scenario where you need some custom quantizing. So you can quantize your drums to 1/4, but your bass player is playing a little bit more. So you might need to use 1/8, for instance. You can go in and get a closer look by double-clicking on the bass track and going to the AudioWarp panel. Now using musical mode, we can actually drag these tracks across by just clicking on the mouse and dragging it, and they will lock perfectly into the quantize setting that we've applied, which is a nice handy way of being able to visualize it and make sure that you're only quantizing the notes that you really want to quantize.